Greetings, unsettled souls. Welcome to the Correct Views. Sam I.B. the Gangi doing political commentary for the Media Speaks. Might have also read some of my work in the Blasting News and, of course, the Conservative Daily Post, as is the new format of the show. If you've just tuned in and you've never seen it before, I start the news 5 minutes from when I begin. Now it's time to trickle in. And who is that? It is you guys, the unsettled souls, the guys who are already guys and gals who are already with me all the time. Thank you. Google's up and running again. It was down for quite some time, at least where I was at with Hangouts. It is now up and running again, although they do rope you into using its platform. I see people trickling in. Yes, so about 4 minutes. The show is up and running again, and I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy that it's getting out and shared again. I have noticed that while I was trying to get things reconfigured here, a lot of you have drifted away. Do me a favor. Remember that this is a small show carried on by like one person. So you guys give is what makes the show grow. Some of you that donate at the Correct Views at hotmail.com through PayPal, that's a huge help. I'm still trying to get a camera. That isn't terrible. I'm going to be doing the Dunce Cap of the Month award show. That is going to be done. There's going to be a double because Christelle is the one who makes the hats, and she was out of town at the beginning of the month for a funeral. Back in town, and the Dunce Cap of the Month will be for 2 months. And it'll also be behind the massive Fukushima update, which so many of you like. Hello, Jason. Welcome aboard. More people tuning in. Do me a favor. If you haven't seen the show before, if you're still listening, by all means, know that at the beginning of each show, I give 5 minutes for the people to trickle in. They see the link, and they go to the bathroom, and they make a sandwich. You know, I make the ladies kind of hungry. I make the ladies something anyway. Maybe they're locking themselves in the bathroom, shrieking. In any event, I started giving people time to trickle in and find the show. Exactly 5 minutes after I begin, the show begins. So you can always scan ahead if you have found this later. And if you're one of the unsettled souls, then you're probably wondering what's going on with the band CD. That's going to be done. It's taking forever. It's very hard to record when you've got so many ideas and you haven't had a good studio since we got signed to Night Stalker, to answer Jason's question there. The Passing Time CD will be done. It's just taking longer than we had thought. I can tell you that War on For Your Mind and Turmoil, the intro song here, they will be the first two released. The go that I start the show with, that will be one of the first two songs on that, and War on For Your Mind. And then there's going to be 2 others. I can also let you know what some of the track listings are on it. Let me know in the comment line if you want. Because I can't. The ghost story made it. All right, you guys, got about a minute and a half till the show begins. And I want to thank you for tuning in because I would be nothing without. I'd just be a guy talking. That's all I'd be. So you guys watching and hitting share is what makes me do them. I don't care how many clicks it gets. I'm not into it for that. But if I'm going to give important information to people, then I want to make sure that people have grasped it, shared it, and passed it around. And today we're talking about something really important. And if you don't know what Sharia law is, believe me, you're going to be mortified by the time that we get into this here. We're going to get graphic. We're going to get real. This show could probably get a PG-13 rating. We're going to be talking about genital mutilation. And yes, we are. And we're going to be addressing things that a lot of people don't talk about. That's what we're going to be doing. About 45 seconds, actually. So thank you guys for letting me let everyone else trickle in. And make sure you, like I said, you hit share, you hit subscribe. Put this on Facebook, put this on Twitter, put it wherever you post things. Let other people know I'm out here. Let other people know that there is somebody telling the truth. And somebody that looks up the truth and brings it to you in a reliable way every time. That's what I do. It's the Correct Views, and we're going to get into it here. 10 seconds till the show actually begins, and here we go. If you have skipped ahead, welcome aboard. It's the actual show. We're getting into it. So what is Sharia law? If you don't know what Sharia law is, you might just think, oh, it's a law that they have in another country. Maybe you know that if someone steals something, they cut your hand off. Well, it's deeper than that, friends. People have said, if you're not a criminal, why should you be afraid of Sharia? For one thing, it's not a court in the way that you and I would consider a court of law. That's not what Sharia law is. Law is, if you commit adultery, they can bury you up to your waist and stone you to death. That's what Sharia law is. If you're gay, they can throw you from skyscrapers and stone you when you hit the ground. Things called genital mutilation. We're going to get a bit sensitive here for a second. Nothing worse than a PG-13. They will take blow torches, or they will take various metal objects and defile a woman no longer to enjoy sexual intercourse for something as simple as being seen with the man that isn't her family or her husband. We are talking about a system that anytime you break a law by the Quran, then you get the punishment that is to be dished out according to the Quran. Now, a lot of people, particularly apologists, and I'm not talking to regular Muslims here, we'll have a beer together and a good time. I'm talking about the ones that would beat me for having a beer. The problem that what they will often do to hide their true belief is they will go ahead and say something like this: Islam is a religion of peace. And then they will go to sections of the Quran that deal specifically with peace and prosperity and the acceptance of Christians. And that's all in the Quran. There's two problems here. When Muhammad was an oppressed person, many of his teachings were things that nobody listening to this would have a problem with. Once he became a caliphate leader, that was when he began to go over the top. That was when he began to want to kill Muslims that didn't believe as he did, I should say. Kill Jews, kill Christians, kill non-believers, conquering people by the sword. And that leads us to the second problem here, friends. That second problem is that, according to the Quran, later in the Quran contradicts something that is earlier in the Quran. A later interpretation, which is to be adhered to. That means that the Quran says, even to non-Sharia practitioners, that those who become Christians, or atheists, or Hindus, or whatever, those who leave the Muslim faith, apostates, are to be killed. Now, there are some interpretations that say if you leave the Muslim faith and then speak badly about Islam, you ought to be killed. It all depends on how you read it there. The point is, be killed. And we're finding this happening more and more often, that this kind of law is trying to be brought into America. And we've seen this in London. In London, there are places that you cannot go to. Not Islamic. It's Sharia Islam. And if you are, you will be chased out. They have chased news crews out. BBC got chased out. InfoWars got chased out. We're finding it reaching into America here. And I want to go to screen share and show you something that was on Fox News to let you know just how serious this is actually getting. We're going to listen to this.
Of all prison conversions in the United States are to Islam. Percent of the U.S. population, it's 18% of the prison population. So here's the deal. If you're a radical, if you're a terror suspect, if you have any...
Well, that's not what I wanted to happen. right. The most important thing she said there while I refresh this is that those who are being converted, you gotta love them. Thanks, Twitter. 1% of America is Islamic. 18% of the prison population is Islamic. And they are taking over in droves. That's what she's saying. You can see there on that. Now that my computer is frozen. Problem for one glaring reason. Do you think it's the moderate Muslim that I was just talking about having a beer with that is converting people in a prison? Or do you think that there is a very good chance that this is a extreme Islamic practitioner, in many instances, not always, that are converting people? Am I suggesting that you could not be someone who has gone to prison, been converted to Islam, and come out a better person? No, of course I'm not saying that. I'm sure it happens quite often. I'm sure that happens more often than what I'm talking about, as a matter of fact. But the idea that we need to keep a close eye on Islam within the prison system matters, not because we have this deep hatred toward Islam, but because radical Islam has said that they would use criminals and those against us in our prison systems. And we know that people like the underwear bomber are a little bit less than the brightest crayon in the box. Basically was MRDD in some regards. And we see this with a lot of the people that we capture who are Islamic terrorists. They have the IQ of a small child. They know nothing else. I mean, many of them do. I'm not covering for them. But I'm saying many of them have a very low IQ and a very limited knowledge of what is real and what isn't. Sometimes more so than even North Korea. They have found people in the African outbacks, and I'm not speaking bad about Africa. I just mean places where they have never seen civilization. And they have more of an idea of what's going on in the world just from, observation, living isolated, than many of these people do. The terrorism. Well, what kinds of people do we have in our prison system? The kinds of people who could be told that there are many virgins waiting for them when they die, as long as they kill people. That's what kind of people. So my little Sharia update here is that we need to keep an eye on how it's also coming into America. And I'm going to get to the dumb D of the day here in a minute. For a story for the Conservative Daily Post, please look it up if you haven't. I have a column there, and we cover how Sharia law, it has its foot in the door because there are congressmen and people who are not wise enough to ban it. They say banning it goes against their rights. You mean you have the right to mutilate a woman in her private area because she talked to somebody at a university or walking down the street? Are you saying that women should always have to wear something that shows no curve in their body as they walk down the street? Or if they are found to have some kind of impure relation, even if they've led an otherwise pure life, well, why don't we go ahead and bury them up to their waist and stone them to death, right? We can throw their gay family members off of rooftops, right? Because to ban that in America could somehow be against American values, right? Nothing says American freedom like throwing somebody off of a building, right? If you think that I am making this up or that I'm taking it too far with analogy, I love to speak in analogy. This is an analogy. This is the dumb D of the day. The dumb D of the day. Good Lord. Bill to ban Sharia law from courts reversed as governor confirms veto. Montana governor here, Steve Bullock. How many of you never mind the Bullocks, the Sex Pistols, how many of you know what Bullocks means? If you're a fan of English rock and roll, you do. Recently, we discovered the debate in Montana where a vote was reached in favor of a bill to ban Sharia law. Oh, but you don't like Muslims if you want to ban Sharia law. No, that's not what this is saying at all. Take a look and understand what it is that they're trying to allow into America here. It's in there. There's our Gangi music. The Gangi music's a little late now. Alright, it's fine. You're late. You are late. That's my internet connection for you. Some officials are trying to compare the old Jewish practice of sewing two garments together as being on par with beating women in the street under Sharia practices in an attempt to stop the ban. But that too failed. Yeah, they did. They tried to say that we should ban Jewish law too, as if bringing back Jewish law is somehow going to be tantamount to beating someone to death in the street. Most people thought that the issue was settled. After all, who would want Sharia law in Montana? Public beatings, genital mutilation, acid being thrown in faces. It doesn't seem like a system that would go over very well in America, right? Well, Governor Steve Bullock of Montana is not so sure that beheadings and throwing people from towering architecture is something that won't work in his state. Instead, he is leaning towards the radical side and has vetoed the legislation to ban Sharia. He went so far as to say, listen to this, friends, that stopping things like enforced Sharia burqa wearing would upend our legal system and debase what we stand for as Montanans in America. I wrote that there must be some way, in his mind, that all of the horrors thus far listed and more are things that some people on Montana would support. We must not debate them after all, debase them after all. So what is Sharia law? Look at this image I put up. Who believes Islam is to be killed immediately. We covered that earlier. A Muslim will be forgiven of murder of an apostate, an adulterer, or a highway robber. That means you can just lie about somebody and kill them, or he's not a believer, dead. Vigilante street justice and honor killing is acceptable. A Muslim will not get the death penalty if he kills a non-Muslim, but he will if he killed a Muslim. And Sharia law dictates death by stoning, beheading, amputation of limbs, flogging, even for crimes and sins such as adultery. Now, listen, friends, I'll be honest with you. I've been cheated on many times in my life. I didn't get to my age with my experience without dating people that cheated on me. And if you've never had it done to you, it's particularly painful. It hurts you in every way that you can imagine. But are we going to be taking people out now that do that and stoning them in the street because we're saying that we don't want to go ahead and disrespect them by banning Sharia law? We need to think about what we're doing here. How about swingers? Foursomes, moresomes. We're gonna beat them in the street too. We need to ask these questions before we go about trying to say we're protecting people's rights by possibly allowing the most rights-destroying belief system in the world to come and get us. It's that there are 13 states that are trying to decide if Sharia law is right for them or not, as absurd as that sounds. No one expected the pushback in Montana. However, Bullock said, there is absolutely no need for this bill. Oh, no, not at all. He also thinks that outlawing hate would breed hate, as he stated that such a bolster would nationwide surge in hate crimes. It would bolster, a nationwide surge in hate crimes. Bullock is clearly saying that he is not opposed to the idea of a system that would set up in his state that would possibly be open to allowing the legal structure of Saudi Arabia to be recognized in the U.S. in areas that are under strict Islamic control. America has had some bad governors, and I go on to talk about, of course, Bob Taft. I'll let you read some of this yourself. Listen to this. Allah honored wives by instating the punishment of beatings. He honored the wives by beating them. Do you see that? Oh, honored them. Oh, why not? I'll read it to you. You guys are tuning in. America has some bad governors. Bob Taft ruined Ohio so badly that even though his family bears the family lineage of a president, the name Taft won't get a person elected as a street cleaner in the state. Gray Al Davis had California living as if they were Amish, and for that matter, Jerry Brown is hardly any better in his state now. Still, those men were great and are great leaders of world renown compared to what Montana is seeing today. To even have to address anything other than having this, I wrote as a mockumentary news, is almost too ridiculous to have to convey. We have no-go zones in Sweden, we know this. Anyone smoking, dancing, singing, or at certain times even laughter, you're punished. If you don't pray at allotted times, you're punished severely. Women are not allowed to walk without a man who is her husband or close relative. If she dares to do so, she will be beaten, killed for doing it. Whole families may have to be dealt with, which means beaten or killed, depending on what crime the lowly woman committed. If she looked a man in the eyes, for instance, it could be all over. Her whole family could be punished. You know that, friends? Her whole family. It is better to be a cockroach, I wrote, in a Sharia Islamic caliphate than a gay or bisexual man or woman. Non-radicals, Islamic or not, may be raped, enslaved, or used as their masters wish. Any Jew is to be looked upon as lower than a pig. Drinking alcohol, I wrote, even in respectful moderation, is grounds for flogging in the square. The horrors are limitless, and yet reasons for political correctness. The common sense implementation of laws to ban the nightmare in the U.S. is now being stopped. And you can go ahead and see right there what that's going to lead to. Go ahead and read the rest of the article, friends. I'll leave you to do that. It's at the Conservative Daily Post. But let me tell you something. We're talking here about abuse in Montana that might be allowed someday because this governor didn't outright ban Sharia law. There are 13 states where this is pending. And if this matters to you, then share this video. Please do. Thanks for tuning in. You can donate at thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. Every penny you give to me goes towards a better show. You can do that through PayPal. I've got a few people watching. Please do. Thecorrectviews@hotmail.com or PayPal. And remember, friends, you don't have to be Christian. You don't have to be whatever religion, any religion, unless, of course, you allow Sharia law into your government, your society, your community, or your country. Do that. Dancing, singing, smoking, gay sex, regular sex, unless it's your wife, unless you're a guy, then you can have sex with whoever you want. Being a Jew, threesomes, TV, music, all of that's gone. And they can bring the misery upon you anytime they wish because they'll say it's ordained by God. If you don't want to live under that, then listen to this video and share this video. Good night, friends. God bless. I'm Sam Gangi. Correct Views, Conservative Daily Post.